All right, hello everybody. This is Robin Reisman from UMassSafe. Welcome. This is the second in a series of 3 webinars on best practices for crash data tools, and we're really excited to have you. This is part of a project funded by Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, and the purpose is to promote partnerships between state driver's licensing agencies and law enforcement with universities. And the project really includes 3 tasks. The first was the 2016 Eastern Service Center Summit. The second is the CV Stack website. And the third is ongoing support to states in the Eastern Service Center as they're working on those partnerships. So before we start with the presentation on crash data tools, I just want to share a little bit with you about the CV Stack website, which you can see on your screen. The goal is, as I said before, to provide assistance to state driver's licensing agencies and law enforcement, along with universities, and specifically to develop programs or expand partnerships and programs. And as you can see on the screen, there's lots of different information. So on the home page, can you scroll down a little bit, Ben? On the home page, you can see on the left that we list different events as they're coming up. And so this webinar series is there, and we're planning another webinar series for January, which you'll be able to see here. And then in the middle are highlights on different programming that's going on across the Eastern Service Center, as well as blogs on different topics that folks have expressed interest in. And a place for folks to ask research and best practice questions. We're hoping for lots of dialogue on the CV Stack website. And then if you scroll up to the top and look under the best practices tab, you'll see that we have some best practice guides. We have all the presentations from the summit. We have past webinars, and so the first in the series of Crash Data Tools webinar, which was last week, is posted here and recorded, and we also have the blogs here. And then in the next one, the CMB Safety Summit has information on all the different presentations at the summit. So every month we're adding lots of content here, so we encourage you to come to the site regularly and check it out, and ask questions and give us insight on things that you'd like more information about, etc. And then the last part of our work is ongoing support to states. So if you are within the Eastern Service Center and you're interested in doing some work with universities or expanding upon those partnerships, and if there's anything we can do to help, we'd really like to do that. So feel free to call on us. So today is the second in a series of 3 sessions on crash data tools. And today we have with us Andrea Bill. She's the program manager with the TOPS Lab. That's the Traffic Operations and Safety Laboratory at the University of Wisconsin. And she's going to share with you the data tool that they have there and some predictive analysis that they're doing there with their tool. So she's going to give a presentation and a demo, and then there'll be lots of room for asking questions and dialogue. Just want to let you know before we start that we're going to record the webinar so that we can post it on the CV Stack website. We're not going to record the question and answer discussion at the very end, but just the actual presentation. So without further ado, here's Andy.
Thank you, Robin. I really appreciate that. We'll go ahead and here and we'll switch over to my presentation. So as Robin mentioned, I'm with the Traffic Operations and Safety Laboratory over at the University of Wisconsin-Madison. And I will get my PowerPoint up here. Let's see here. Oh, there it is. Okay. And then we'll go ahead and get started. So what I have planned for today is to go through and show a little bit about, just who we are and kind of how we got started on this. And then going into a little bit about what tools we've built for the crash data, and then how we're using it in terms of commercial motor vehicle safety and enforcement. So the Traffic Operations and Safety Laboratory was formed in 2003. It's part of the Civil Engineering and Environmental Department on the UW-Madison campus. Our program areas include information technology, operations, and the traffic safety engineering component of it. All 3 of these areas kind of interplay with each other, and well, we can't do anything in terms of safety and operations unless we have the data readily at our fingertips a little bit. We started out as a partnership with the Wisconsin Department of Transportation. What's nice is that Wisconsin and Wyoming are the two states that have all of their kind of partners underneath one umbrella. So underneath the Department of Transportation umbrella in Wisconsin, not only do you have the Division of Motor Vehicles, the engineering side of the house, but you also have State Patrol and the Governor's Highway Safety Group. So they're all together there, and so we kind of worked out some partnerships there to say, you know, how do we make sure that we're addressing this from a comprehensive manner, and with having everybody kind of underneath one umbrella, we can make sure that we're tying all those pieces together. This has led to other state and federal grants and kind of moving forward that research and government key components to it. From our information technology side of things, and if you attended the in-person summit, you might have seen some of these slides from Dr. David Noyce, just to kind of go back over it to make sure we're all on the same page. The WisTransportal was developed back when we first started in 2003 as kind of several different objectives to it. So one was an archive data management process. We wanted to make sure that we could, as we were collecting all of the data on the roadways, so whether it's regards to asset inventory, some of the loop detector data, as well as crash data, that we could all manage that together. We also wanted to make sure that we could have some real-time data exchange as needed. So part of our lab is working on kind of taking the data from the computer-aided dispatch centers and moving that out to the Transportation Management Center, as well as to 511. With all of this data together, it doesn't do anybody any good unless they can access it. So we want to try to centralize that access to the data, so one-stop shopping for all of this together. And then, you know, as we continue to move forward and we get into this big data type of time frame, we want to make sure that the data and the systems integrate together. We don't want standalone systems. We want to figure out how we can kind of pull all of these together to get to the answers we needed. To do that, we need to make sure we have some test bed environments as well too. So it's really easy to kind of stand a system up, see how it's working, and change it on the fly a little bit as we move forward. Some of the data sources that we currently have, and I'll cover a lot more with regards to the crash data as we move forward. We have information about traffic data, traffic incidents, lane closures on the state roadways, traffic video, some of the intelligent transportation system inventory from the asset side of things, roadway weather data, and then all of that is layered onto a GIS roadway inventory system. Here talks about a little bit about our systems a little bit, and again, I'll talk about the crash data retrieval facility in depth. What's nice is that we have crash data from 1994 until the present time frame. We are able to kind of keep the police crash reports as well too. It says it's actually updated on a monthly basis. We did an update to the system, and it's actually updated on a nightly basis now, and I'll go more into details with that. We also have some speed data, so volume, speed, and occupancy, traffic detector data. We have a permitting system for the lane closure system. There's that computer-aided dispatch side of the house, link video, and then this all-important kind of traffic incident alert system that kind of can go out to Twitter feeds. It can go out to the 511 system. There's a partnership with Waze that can get out to it as well too. So again, just some good ways to get the information out to the traveling public and to the people that need to know it. As we think about kind of this system a little bit, we're trying to make sure that we are using the federal government's documents and guidelines to help us. So we kind of base everything off of our six-pack system. So making sure that the data is as timely as possible, the accuracy, the completeness, consistency between the agencies, the accessibility of the data, making sure whoever needs access to it can get to it, and then the all-encompassing integration. So you can see that honeycomb data integration slide on the other side. We started with the crash data here in the middle, and we're working our way out to kind of connect all of the other pieces together. We've done this with regards to, from the driver licensing side of things, more recently with motorcycle data. We wanted to know at the time of the motorcycle crash, did that driver have an active motorcycle endorsement? If not, did they ever have an active motorcycle endorsement? Just to try to get a little better feeling on what was happening with our licensing components for motorcycle drivers. We'll do that a lot more as we integrate all of these systems together to figure out kind of not only the licensing at the time of the crash, but any previous endorsements as we move forward.
Exactly.
We're following some of the data standards. I guess are you guys getting some feedback, Robin? Okay. We're trying to follow some of the national data standards with regards to the model minimum uniform crash criteria, as well as the Federal Highway Administration's model of inventory roadway elements. So as we kind of move forward to our data, what we were asked to is by our state patrol. They said, you know, we're concerned that we're not enforcing where the crashes are actually happening. And if we want to change the safety culture out there, how do we do that? We got into this predictive analytics side of things a little bit and kind of learning what was being done in Massachusetts and in Tennessee and in Ohio and Alabama and other folks. We want to see, can we learn from the experience, the data that we currently have to help predict future behavior of individuals in order to make better decisions. So through this program, we want to make sure that we optimize staffing allocations. Are there times of the year, times of the week that maybe we shouldn't have the kind of the same staffing numbers? Maybe that needs to be changed and kind of be a little bit more flexible. We want to make sure that they're increasing the law enforcement's visibility at the right locations at the right times to maximize the impact on traffic safety. And again, all of this is to help improve that safety culture moving forward. And then with this, it enhances incident management capabilities, right, by reducing the response time and minimizing those secondary crashes. All of it is to create safer roadways in Wisconsin. So we have two delivery mechanisms that I'll go through in depth here. One is community maps, which is what we use kind of on a Google-based system. It assists with the planning and resource allocation. And then we're moving that into then what's called MACH. So it's mobile architecture for communication handling. This is in the squad cars on the laptops of the law enforcement. They have a system that's kind of helping know where other law enforcement is within their own agency or maybe other agencies if they're connected to it. This provides in-car information about optimal locations to deploy. So community maps is kind of more on that larger scale, so maybe sergeants and higher are kind of looking at it and analyzing it and then getting the locations out to boots on the ground as we move forward. So how we do this. So in our law enforcement in the field has access to what's called TRACS, which is the Traffic and Criminal Software System. Every law enforcement in the state of Wisconsin is 100% electronic when it comes to their crash data now, and moving into that for citations and warnings. So it's really nice that we have all that electronic data coming in. This was a change. We redid the crash report form and kind of updated it and changed it and made it a little bit more user-friendly so we could have that electronic compliance back last year on January 1st of 2017. All of that data comes into this crash database, which is housed at the university and the Traffic Operations and Safety Laboratory Information Center here. All of the data comes in, and then from that, we can feed that back out to community maps and then MACH. And then the idea, again, behind this is that to get better data, we need to make sure that feedback loop is there. And so that goes right back to the law enforcement in the field so they can use it and see the time and the energy that they're spent filling out the crash report form is coming right back to them with this information. What's nice about this is the timeliness component of it is very quick. As I mentioned, if the law enforcement submits the crash yesterday, it's available in the crash database today, and that means it's available in community maps today as well too. MACH is getting updated by the agencies kind of as they see fit a little bit. So again, it kind of depends on it from their side of things, how they want to do that and move it forward. So we kind of have that timeliness component to it. As we get into accuracy and consistency standpoint, we're able to have a lot more discussion to say, okay, this is what the data is showing us. And then working with law enforcement as we come up with these hotspots that I'll share with you, we've been getting lots of comments such as, well, I wouldn't expect it to be there. I expected it to be here. And so some of that is with regards to maybe their mapping wasn't 100% correct. They kind of just put the pin down on the map and didn't really pay that much attention to it, so they can kind of see the importance with it. Some of it may be, you know, if we look at speed-related crashes, how officers are putting down a possible speed-related crash is different from agency to agency. And so it kind of gets that consistency among those agencies a little bit clearer to kind of have them see how all of this works and plays out a little bit. So TRACS has, right now, individuals, previously individual agencies could look at what they were doing, but they weren't able to kind of look across borders. The State Patrol could see what they were doing in their TRACS system, but they couldn't see what City of Madison was putting into it or Milwaukee County. So they weren't able to see that a little bit. They're also collecting more data, and so they have some citizen contact forms, some warnings and citations. And again, we're looking to pull that from individual agencies to more of a holistic statewide perspective. On the right just shows total number of alcohol-related citations in Wisconsin municipalities from 2012 to 2014. So we're kind of mapping things individually from each agency instead of having this kind of holistic approach to it, which is what we have right now for crashes, and then we'll be moving forward to with warnings and citations. Previous mapping. So we've been doing a lot of commercial motor vehicle mapping for State Patrol over many years. It started out of these kind of basic pin maps a little bit, just to say where the commercial motor vehicle crash is happening for a region's post. And so here you can see the 2011 to 2013. And so here they could then push this out to their inspectors to say, okay, go ahead and look at these locations a little bit. The maps are good. They were kind of get the point across a little bit, but it's hard to see on some of these, you know, how many crashes are overlapping there. Is that 10 crashes? Is that 5 crashes? Is that only 3 crashes? It's really hard to kind of see if we look up here in the top part of Sauk County. So we needed some other ways to kind of look at these densities. And then we also wanted to see about some of the other factors to kind of go along with it. We've built some forecasting models. So we've kind of built ones of the likelihood of serious injuries and fatality crashes. As we move into a lot more of the commercial motor vehicle, we've looked into that sort of thing. So we're using some of the modeling that's in the database to be able to predict based on whatever kind of inputs that we give it. And I'll kind of show a little bit more about that. We try to identify areas of concern by either time of day, and we do this into the shifts of the law enforcement. So we have first, second, and third shifts, so daytime, afternoon, nighttime, things of that concern. So we want to make sure that they're able to look at it for their time of day when they're going to be out enforcing. Day of week, so is it weekend versus weekday? And then geographic locations. We do 4-hour blocks of time, and then we present it in a heat map and a table, and then staffing is allocated according to those numbers. Here's a tool of kind of the WisTransPortal, a picture of it. The WisTransPortal was originally built more from an engineering side of the house. You can query it based on your location, and I'll hopefully get some time to show some examples of this. Moving forward, you can look at some mapping. You can do some summarizing of the data. It's built very similar to the FARS system, the fatality analysis reporting system that the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration has. So we built this to look a lot like that. You can change your column list. You can order it by different things. On the left-hand side of the screen, you can see 2 things there. One is a blue kind of eye button. So it's an information button to kind of get a quick snapshot of what that crash looks like. And then for me, which is really helpful, I can get to those green. It looks like a little download button. It's a little arrow with a horizontal line underneath it. From here, I can download the crash report forms directly. So I can able to look at it to see, you know, what does the diagram and the narrative say for each and every one of these crashes. So if I want it included in my analysis, I can. If I don't need it, I can throw it out. So I can have all that information kind of at my fingertips. From here, I can also download it to a comma-separated value file and then open it up into Excel and do any other graphs or anything else I would need to do with it. So that's kind of how our crash retrieval facility was originally built, and kind of continuing to kind of move through the system a little bit. You have lots of different querying opportunities and being able to look at the data from multiple different ways. You also have some mapping capabilities there, and again shows our crash report forms as we move forward. So we have the statewide GIS crash map from 2012, and then moving forward. Moving forward to some of the mobile architecture communication handling side of the house a little bit. So this is what the officer would see inside the vehicle. They have 2 options. They can look at it through these kind of dot maps here, or else a heat map. They can click on, so here this is pulling in the commercial motor vehicle predictive analytics for the day shift, afternoon shift, and night shift. And so they can kind of click on and off depending on what they want to look at. Community Maps was built for a little different function to begin with. And right now, the crash data retrieval facility, which I showed on an earlier slide, and the community maps, the data going into it's the same. It's just kind of how people are using it and what they feel a little bit more comfortable with is a little bit different. So community maps was originally built for our county traffic safety commissions. In Wisconsin, by state statute, every county must meet on a quarterly basis to review the crashes, the fatal crashes especially, but any crashes from the previous quarter from a multitude of stakeholders. So usually that involves the county highway commissioner, sheriff's deputy, maybe some town and city folks, depending on what they want, public health, Our DAs sometimes go to it. Sometimes we have some judges that go to it as well too, our public health component, as well as State Patrol, and then an engineer from the DOT. So this system was built to kind of create those maps of those crashes so that the county could quickly review it and examine it based on it, and kind of pull it up. And because it's based on a Google system, it's really nice because you can go ahead and pull on the satellite view or get down to the street level view depending on what you want to look at. We built it in two ways. So you'll see lots of tabs on the top here. A couple of these tabs are available and open to anybody. So if you wanted to step away afterwards and kind of look at this, you can Google community maps and hopefully this comes right up. The search tab here is open to the public, and then this Traffic Safety Commission resources tab is also open to the public. So you do not need a login information for this. So you can do some general queries based on this. What's nice here is that if you get a lot of people who are wondering about the data or concerned about it, they can do their own analysis and query it. Our partners in the media can link directly to this. So if they have a crash that they're reporting on, they can link to this site so that it pulls up when they're talking about a crash on the Beltline and Rimrock Road. It can pull up and show other crashes in that same area. So it's a way to kind of put the data back into the hands of people that are concerned about it, that may not have kind of all of the permissions set with actually reviewing the crash report forms that have driver information associated with it. There's some information about you can do some filtering based on crash severity and crash flags, but it definitely changes just a little bit. Moving into the advanced tab, so you can see up here it says Welcome A Bill. So I've logged into it by now, and I'll show you some examples in person here. We've got some time. This can do a little bit more in-depth queries a little bit. You can also, if you've done some work in the WisTransPortal data retrieval facility and kind of queried down to the exact crashes you want to examine and you want to look at it, you can go ahead and put it in here. You get some more information about the crashes. You can download it from here as well too. You have the ability to create a spot map, so it's a nice PDF format so that you can go ahead and use it at a Traffic Safety Commission meeting or anything else you're kind of looking for. You can see on each one of these crashes, it also shows the flags associated with it. So this is with regards to the third one down here is with regards to seatbelts, commercial motor vehicles, and distraction. And then you can go ahead and click on each one of these dots and it gives you some more information. The analyze component we built for a law enforcement perspective. So kind of how we step through this process. Search we built is pretty basic. That can be open to anybody. Advanced, because it has a little bit more information, you can actually get to the crash report form. We have to build that behind a password. And then the analyze is what we built for the law enforcement side of things to kind of look at these algorithms. So here you can see a heat map of commercial motor vehicles and speed-related crashes for the Southwest region. Right now it's just displaying crash heat maps. I'll show you kind of heat maps and locations as we move forward here and some of the analytics behind it a little bit. But again, we can select by date range if we want, so weekday or weekend. I'm sorry, date range in terms of winter months, summer months, or next 30 days, next 7 days, whatever we want to look at there. Day, week, weekday, weekend, and time of day with regards to first, second, and third shift. Here's kind of some of the filters here. So I wanted to look up here commercial motor vehicles and this, and you can see these kind of analysis areas here, and those are the kind of the black dots on the side here. So this gives for commercial motor vehicles in summer months in the Southwest region. It can kind of show us where we're seeing, based on the algorithm, where we predict to see a higher number of crashes, and especially commercial motor vehicle crashes. So we can look a little bit more in depth into that. Because our data is not perfect and we're trying to improve it here, we try to make sure all of that information is readily available. You'll see up here that says there are 1316 out of 1455 total crashes analyzed. We do see some limitations and some of our agencies not using the geolocation tool provided through that track system. And so that's why we might not see 100% of the crashes being mapped. Because this is being out there and the conversation happens so regularly at the Traffic Safety Commission meetings, it's a lot of peer pressure from law enforcement agencies to other law enforcement agencies to say, you know, we have 99% mapped, why do you only have 50% mapped or even less than that? And so they can kind of have that discussion back and forth, because it's not, you know, we don't look at safety by per agency basis. We look at safety by a city, a village, a town, a county, a region level, so we don't really look at it by agency. So we want to make sure all the data is in there as much as possible. It's been working out really well to have kind of that law enforcement to law enforcement discussion, definitely compared to when this analyst Andy steps in and asks for some more information with regards to the data. So this is kind of just showing it on a little larger scale as you look for it. And this is winter months. Okay, that's what I wanted to show. So summer months here, you can kind of see we've got some areas in La Crosse. We've got some areas in the Madison area and then down by Beloit. As we go to the winter months, you can kind of see that things have just changed a little bit more. We have now a section kind of in the Janesville area. And then these Madison area ones have just shifted just a little bit. So one from that kind of that center area to more to that, what we call the belt line. And so again, just showing the difference between how it's important to look at the crash data, not just on a yearly basis, which is important as well too. But if you can get down and look at it for your specific conditions, it's really helpful to be able to do that as well too. So we built the algorithm. Great. How do we measure the effectiveness of it? So we went through and we worked with 3 of our regions to do some pilots. And then here was what we can see here. So in the southwest region of the state, we had 4 troopers that were assigned focused primarily on 2 main hotspots in Sauk County. If you guys aren't familiar with it, Sauk County is near the Wisconsin Dells, which is kind of unofficially the water park capital of the world, in case you want to come out to Wisconsin and check it out. So we see a lot of different tourists and things that people, it's got interstates that are right by there, so we saw some hotspots there. In the northeast region, we had 4 troopers rotating shifts between 6 counties. So they didn't focus on a per county basis. They said, okay, we're going to kind of go ahead and do this on a rotation around to try to cover, look at a little bit more coverage associated with it. And then they did some focus. So they did a commercial motor vehicle focus with theirs. Northwest region had 6 troopers assigned to work their 8-hour shifts and hotspots with also the county. So getting involved with the local folks as well too. So they had worked with Chippewa County. To be able to measure this, we measured their touches to the system. So in our MACH system, every time they have a citizen contact, they have to fill out the reason why. So there are these fields with regards to, was it at a traffic safety meeting, outreach, was it a media outreach, was it a civic group outreach, community event, school, other partner law enforcement, community businesses. And again, the idea is we want to make sure that we're using all of this to our advantage. So every time that people are out there talking about why they're out there, if they're getting gas, getting lunch, it's an opportunity to inform people why they're seeing more state patrol folks out there, why they're seeing more law enforcement out there. And so that can be that way. So people are getting the message a little bit. This seems a little bit blurry on the screen. I apologize for that. So we did have handouts associated with this. So you can see here's one example of it. So it says, citizen of Wisconsin, you have been recently contacted by law enforcement while you're operating a vehicle in a current hotspot. And then what it does is it kind of breaks down to the unsafe driving behavior. So you can see the distracted driving, unbelted, impaired driving. And then it gives some of the county municipality data facts below. And then it gives the mission. So it's behavioral change associated with it. So it's working with local communities to change the driving behavior in and around these hotspots. So it was a way to make sure that it wasn't just a warning that got thrown in the back of the car. Maybe it still was, but the idea was to have a little bigger piece of information that goes along with it, to have that explanation of why they're out there. So this is the Sauk County for the Southwest pilot. You can see where we're kind of focusing on these 3 different areas. Hotspot 1 was on distracted and speed and motorcycle. Hotspot 2 was distraction and speed. And hotspot 3 was distraction. So for these ones, we let the algorithm dictate to us where, with these spots, what were the the flags associated with what were the issues associated with each one of them. And then we broke those down into for law enforcement, where were the specific areas were located so they could be doing their high visibility enforcement. We did that for all of the areas moving forward. Here you can see this is from their traffic stop location. So afterwards, we can do evaluations. So I'm just going to scan back here. You can see here, we have where those hotspots are located. And then here you can see in the middle of the screen, those are where those hotspots were, but they also took some time to do other outreach areas associated with that. So these were the traffic stop locations for just the officers that were involved in the pilot. So some of the results we haven't looked at the crash data quite yet because it was just finished up last weekend with these pilots. One of the results we saw kind of qualitatively was that local agencies started to take notice. There was a decision to not do a lot of outreach ahead of time, kind of let the pilots do what they were supposed to be doing and then see what kind of comments came out of it. I think that there were some lessons learned with that moving forward. So local agencies were starting to wonder, why is State Patrol out here so much? There was definitely an increased visibility in those areas. There were definitely some citizen complaints. And then from the chief side of things, it was either kind of support to neutral. So some of the chiefs said great, other ones said probably not. The citizen complaints were a lot of, you're focusing on just us. What about the tourists, things of that sort. So again, it takes that dialogue that kind of goes along with it a little bit. From the law enforcement perspective, it definitely took a few conversations to get through a change in how we're doing it. So not trying just to go out to the fishing holes where they feel comfortable, but making sure that we are doing a data-driven support to where those pieces are located. The community maps part of it really helped get the buy-in. So if people had questions or concerns, they could be kind of pushed back to the public side of it a little bit as well too, so they could start to see where the crashes were happening in their areas and moving forward from that. There was lots and lots of context, as you saw in the previous slide. There was actually some added benefits as well too. So in that Southwest region, there was a bail jumper that was was doing the enforcement. They found that person as well too. There was also somebody that was wanted by the Marshal Service. So again, doing these high visibility enforcements in these locations where we're seeing not just crash data, but also some of the crime data and things of that sort, which has been plenty of research to show enforcing where you have criminal activity and traffic safety issues, you kind of get that most benefit associated with it. So what are we looking to do in the future? So we want to definitely do some process improvement, make sure we have that those algorithms as readily kind of as best as we can to look at it. Some more tool development in terms of, especially with the in-car system, making sure that officers can kind of pull up on that when they want to look at it, and then the validation and calibration of our algorithms. Part of it is making sure that from the next steps here is, do we have all the community organizations that we need to do the outreach to? Making sure that we have not only a handout, so that's a flyer associated there, but also information with regards to a PowerPoint if needed. And then looking to kind of wrap up with an evaluation and validation component to it. And then also looking at some social media outreach associated with it. So that's kind of what we're doing from our predictive analytics tool standpoint. So Robin, do I still have some time to do a couple of live demos?
Yes, I think the live demos would be great.
Excellent. All right, so this is always the question here is, does a live demo work, right? All right, let me just switch screens here for a quick second. Okay. All right, so I think we are set with the community maps. Can you guys all see this screen okay?
See it.
Was that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes, we can see it.
Okay. Okay. So what I did here is, because sometimes the Analyze tab takes a little while, so I pulled it up ahead of time. So you can see we're already getting better with our numbers. So we have 2,469 crashes out of the 2,664 crashes that are being analyzed here. It brings up our, what I did here was just commercial motor vehicle. I excluded deer crashes, and I just kind of left all the date time stuff as blank for right now. I can zoom into the different areas. So when we looked at commercial motor vehicles, based on our kind of more severe crashes, our K, A, and B injury crashes, we kind of see the higher numbers with regards to the Milwaukee area. This has a lot more of the truck traffic in the state. So I just kind of did statewide, where should you kind of be focusing on a little bit. And then each post can go through and look at it from their side of things as well too. So I can zoom into the analysis area here. We'll give it just a second. So there's 12 commercial motor vehicle crashes here on the 94 and then 43 area. And so you can kind of just look at those areas. What we're still kind of working on a little bit is, looks like area 1 here and area 5 are pretty close together. So we, similar to how we do some signing with regards to compound curves a little bit, we need to look at the area between it. So if there are 2 areas that are pretty close together, is it best to try to combine those together and looking at it from that regard. So this is kind of our Analyze tab a little bit. I'm going to go back to that Search tab here. So the Search tab is open to everybody. You can look at it from your different counties. As you can see, we already have 2018 data on here. I can click on it here. It gives me information about this crash. So this was a fatality crash. It had one fatality on April 27th. The kind of flags that were associated with were alcohol, seatbelt, and speed. I can do some and/or categories here. So say I wanted to look at KAB crashes, and I want to look at alcohol or drug fatality crashes. Fatality, suspected and serious injury, and minor injury. So I can kind of go through that. So I can do some and/or calculations here and examine it. So this is a drug flag and a seatbelt one. If I go to the Advanced tab and do that same query, I want to look at KAB and do alcohol or drug. I can search there. So it'll pull up here. What's nice now here is I have a little bit more information with it. So not only do I have those flags that we saw before, I have the crash hour that was associated with it. I have the information with regards to the manner of collision. So this is no collision with vehicle in transit. It was a mailbox that it was hit. And that was the crash type. And then the agency was Merrill Police Department, and there are the coordinates. You can see here that this is a hyperlink. I can go ahead and click that, and it comes up with the actual crash report form. Let me go back to this thing. Where did it go? Sorry. I somehow lost my, there it is, okay. Hopefully you can see this now. So what's nice here is I can zoom in and look at it a little bit more in depth if I want to examine and see, if I want to zoom in and examine it and see what's going on. So I can zoom to select and examine it that way. And I can also download the crash data if I want to. So Community Maps has lots of good information in it. In the resources side of things, it gives information with regards to when does the Traffic Safety Commission meet, some of the information about the guidelines. It links to our Strategic Highway Safety Plan, which has some good information in it. And then it has some county profiles. So the county profiles are a way to kind of have some discussion happening to say, you know, where is the employment to and from that county? What's the population? It gives information about number of liquor establishments, your trauma centers that are there, information with regards to your first responders, as well as information to the crash data side of things a little bit. So it has lots of information with regards to that. I'm going to take a step back and go into the WisTransportal crash retrieval facility here. So we have on the first screen here, just kind of talks the difference about preliminary and final crashes, gives a little definition about what a reportable crash is, and looking at it, understanding that, you know, we're always trying to balance the line. If we put the data out in a very timely fashion, it may have some issues associated with it. So we're making sure that people know that it's preliminary data, that it isn't finalized, and looking at it. When we go here into the original kind of screen, you can search by date range. You can look at your region, your municipality. You can look at intersection and non-intersection. If you're curious about parking lot and private property crashes, you can do that. And you can see that there's just maybe a few more flags associated with it here. I can also go into this advanced query, which is helpful for folks. So in our previous crash report form data, we didn't have anything that was really good with regards to run off the road crashes. So you kind of had to do a combination of manner of collision and accident type to try to get to that run off the road crashes. And so what we wanted to do is we could create some, you know, pre-made queries associated with it here. And so here you can see here, I'll select it here, and it's non-intersection crashes, and it kind of comes up with these query blocks associated with it, along with the manner of collisions. So I can go ahead, I can do that. If I wanted to add run off the road in commercial motor vehicles, I could do that as well too. So say here I wanted to look at run off the road crashes, and I also had a flag of commercial motor vehicles. I'm going to do an and with that one. I'm going to do the union here, and I'm going to retrieve the data. So it comes up with that for 2017, and we're looking at it here. So this information, which is nice, is I can get to this kind of info sheet. It kind of gets me some more information about the crashes if I wanted to kind of look at it, just kind of crash by crash basis. If I wanted to look at it on a map basis here, which uses ArcGIS server, I can do that. And so as we move forward, we're kind of saying, well, we have Google Maps and we have ArcGIS. How do we kind of, look at this a little bit more carefully to determine? So in the future, these may be merged. It may stay separate. It just kind of depends on where the department wants to go for some of this information. I can still, look and click on this crash and get some more information on it. So it works similar to what we see for community maps. Did too many clicks. I probably made it angry. So here it gives me the information about the crash in a little bit more detail. So I can see it's a non-intersection crash. It happened on a rural town road. It had a road condition of ice, cloudy weather, and it involved 2 vehicles. And then I could use that same download feature to view the crash report form if I needed to. So kind of similar features to community maps, just a little bit different in how it was kind of built and then how they're looking at it. To me, I use the WisTransPortal Crash Retrieval Facility if I want to do a little bit more in-depth analysis and want to do some more of those advanced queries that I kind of showed on the previous page and go a little bit more in depth. I can do it that way. And then I can kind of go out and look at it from a community maps perspective. To me, the summarize field is really helpful. So if I wanted to look at month and then I wanted to look at hour, I can kind of pivot that a little bit and I can just summarize that information there. So I can see, by each kind of day, each hour associated with that crash, and by month, I can look at it this way. I can download this and then graph it if I want to, kind of have that associated with it. So I can do some quick analysis this way and kind of determine what I want to look at a little bit more in depth and how I want to look at it. So with that, I can, Robin, if I'm pass it back to you in case you want to maybe stop the recording, we can get some questions associated with it. And if people have questions about specific components of the query tools, I can definitely go through and do some examples at that time if that works for you guys.
Great. Thanks so much, Andy. Excellent tool. One thing that I really like about it is the different levels, so that you have one piece of the tool that's designed really for law enforcement and another for the community and another for more in-depth analysis. I think that's an excellent idea.